Okay, hello everyone and welcome to today's Insidelocal Webinar. Today's topic is effective sales strategies for local agencies, as it says on your screen. For those of you who haven't kind of joined us on a previous webinar, this is actually the third webinar in the Insidelocal series. And although I've seen quite a few kind of familiar names and faces in the kind of question module, in the attendee list, so I know that we've got quite a few customers of BrightLocal on with us today, and also quite a few people who have who've kind of signed up for the kind of previous webinars. But so welcome to you, and welcome to all of our new viewers. On behalf of Linda from the Local Search Forum, myself, and our two completely stellar guest speakers that we have with us today. I do appreciate you taking the time out of your busy days to join us. We know how busy you all are. We've all got a ton of work to do. There is probably not another industry in the world that isn't kind of fuzzing and as busy as the kind of local search marketing industry right now. So for you to kind of set aside an hour and a half of your time to be with us, I know is a big ask, but I do appreciate you doing it, and we'll be sure to make sure that your time is well used today. As I said a little bit a second ago, the registration attendance today's webinar has been very strong again, which is really, really good to see. We've had such a positive response to the Insidelocal webinar series, as well as great feedback after the event. So I think this proves how much interest and demand there is for people to learn kind of more about local, to understand the industry, how to use it to their advantage and improve their skills and understanding. And I have no doubt that today's webinar will be another great opportunity for all of us to learn from the wisdom and experience of our highly regarded and renowned speakers. And I'm going to introduce them formally in a minute. Before I do that, before I unleash them on you, I just want to run through a few things so you know what to expect from the webinar, and also a little bit about what is expected from you. So this is the agenda for today. There's kind of 4 parts to it. The first bit is I'm just going to run through some findings from a recent survey we did, which is the Local SEO Survey 2013, where we surveyed a large number of consultants and SEOs and kind of agency bosses, mainly in the US but also in Canada. And we asked them a number of questions about how their business is going, how they're feeling about the industry, what's changing, what's moving things. And a number of those questions sort of focused on sales and revenue. So I'm just going to pull out some of the most kind of pertinent and interesting slides and kind of present that data to you at the start. Then we're going to jump then into the kind of meat of the presentation, the meat of the webinar, which is looking at the sort of sales sort of strategies and tips. And there could be 3 parts to that. We're looking at prospecting, so kind of new lead generation, pitching, the whole sort of presenting, pitching sort of stage in the sort of sales cycle, and then obviously kind of closing the deal at the end. And the way it's going to work is there are going to be there's 4 sections webinar. There's going to be a kind of presentation and a kind of Q&A. So once we've done the prospecting bit, both David and Laura are going to do a little presentation. Then we'll have a Q&A for that. Then we'll go on to kind of presenting and pitching. We'll have the presentation from both David and Laura, and then a Q&A. The same for closing, and then we'll have a kind of longer Q&A session at the end. So please do fire through your questions. We want questions kind of coming through thick and fast. Obviously, most of you located the kind of question module now. We'll be kind of monitoring that and kind of keeping track of the most kind of popular questions that come through. So please do fire through questions. We've got, like I said, 4 Q&A sessions, so we'll make sure we've got jam-packed, juicy questions. So please don't be shy, and please do put your questions in there. Some housekeeping points. The webinar is being recorded. The recording will be available on Monday the 19th. It will be sooner, but unfortunately our person who does our editing is away this week. So as soon as they're back in on Monday, we're going to jump on them and get the kind of webinar edited, then made available and live to you, and we will email you around to let you know where you can access that link. There is no kind of webcam view today because of some limitations in GoToWebinar. So sorry, it's just our voices and slides today. The slide decks will be uploaded to slideshare.net. And that will be done this afternoon, and you will have a follow-up email with all these details coming down the pipe to you tomorrow. So, like I said, if you have to duck off early, don't worry. You'll be bombarded by us with all the extra information after the event as well. We're also going to be running some polls throughout the course of the webinar. We've got 4 polls, and these are basically kind of questions to try and understand, your kind of view of the sales, how you handle sales, your attitude for sales, how you feel about sales. So we'll display these on the screen at various times. There's fingers on buzzers, 60 seconds to answer, and then as the kind of webinar is running through, we'll be analyzing the results, putting some slides into the presentation, and then showing you what the results of those polls are. So, getting some really kind of live, immediate feedback coming through. A little bit about Insidelocal. Insidelocal is a collaboration between BrightLocal and the Local Search Forum, and Linda and I have been talking about wanting to do these kind of free, very kind of content-rich events some time, and it's great that we're now kind of getting into the thick of it. It's the third one that we've done. We've got plenty more kind of dates and topics coming up over the next few weeks and months. We're really focusing on the hot issues and trends and opportunities within search. It's all about great content and excellent speakers, and that is really in evidence today with both David and Laura joining us. These guys, if anything is anything to be known about sales, particularly with a kind of sort of marketing or kind of local marketing sort of aspect to it, then David and Laura know about it. The pitching is really advanced, it's informative, and it's also highly actionable. So we expect you to be able to kind of walk away from these events and be better at your job, better at your business, with immediate effect. So we have some more webinars and dates, which we'll talk about a little at the end. So we have our two speakers today, and very, very excited to have both these guys with us. As I said, they are highly regarded. I've had the pleasure of knowing Mr. David Sprague for a few years now. He's incredibly charming, incredibly knowledgeable, and he's always delighted to impart his knowledge to help others get ahead in the industry. He's very kind of giving and sort of benevolent in that way. David runs a local agency, a very successful agency called Real Strategic. He also has a number of search products, as well as a series of well-known training courses which cover sales, reputation, maps, and Google Plus marketing. As well as these, these sort of digital sort of virtual initiatives, David also runs local search and meetups such as the Local Marketing Exchange, and I was lucky enough to be invited over to speak at one recently in Orlando. It was a great event and a really great pleasure to meet David and his team. Laura and I have also known each other for quite a long time. She's very well known in the local search industry. She runs boutique market agency Yada Yada Marketing. She also runs a local marketing training business called Local Mobile Fusion. She's helped many thousands of kind of newbies and established search marketeers either get started in the business or improve their skills, grow their business, and become successful. Laura and I actually worked together recently on an interesting kind of agency Q&A piece, which is a series of blogs published on BrightLocal and the search engine land, where we really got to kind of understand the sort of process that she goes in terms of winning new clients, working with them, kind of managing them through, and kind of retaining them. So again, both these guys are incredibly knowledgeable, and we are delighted they're spending their time with us today. So thank you guys. We also have myself and Linda on. Obviously, Linda runs a local search forum and is a great giver to the local search industry, and she really asks for kind of very little in return. Obviously, I run BrightLocal, and it's great that we've got a number of our customers with us today, so appreciate you, A, putting your trust in BrightLocal, but also spending the time to be with us today. We're going to do our first poll now, so just going to get Editor, my assistant, to help us. Editor, if you could just fire up that first poll. So guys, this is the first poll we're going to do. It's basically a kind of multiple choice question. I'm going to launch it now, Editor. We're just going to run it for 60 seconds. If everyone could answer, that would be great, so we get a nice sort of sample size. We had 90% of people answer it the last time, so that was really fantastic to have so many people kind of get involved in it. It really makes the data that much more worthwhile. So we're up to 35%, which is great. 40%. We've got to beat 90%, guys. Please, everyone, take the time to kind of vote. Up to 50%, 60%. Great, we're absolutely flying here, which is excellent. This is going to be really useful because we'll display the results of this poll back to you at the end, and you can kind of see how you compare against others in the industry and others on the call. We're up to 75%. Gosh, we're doing really well. We're going to give it another 15 seconds. Let's see if we can get up to 80%, and that will give us a really decent sample size. Okay, 5 seconds. Great. Okay, we got to 75%, so that's pretty good. So, Editor, why don't you close that down, and we'll process the results of that in a second. Oh. Okay, so before we kind of start off, Mr. David Sprague wanted to say a few words about sales. I believe David has actually just been on a hosting a kind of sales training session himself. Earlier on today, so no doubt he is in the zone, and he's really feeling it. He's feeling it about sales, as he always does, and he wanted to say a sort of few words about his sort of philosophy of sales. So, David, over to you to kind of make a little introduction.
Well, fantastic. Well, thank you so much. It's such a privilege to be here among such amazing marketers and really people that are investing in the local marketing space. So I'm just going to share my screen real quick. Everybody see my screen? Just put yes in the chat box. And what I did is I wanted to show who I am, because my passion is local marketing, because it literally saved my finances and my future. And so when it comes to the ability to have mission and vision and have a opportunity to make a difference, I don't think there's anything more exciting than being in the local marketing space. Because if you look at who really shapes the local community, it's the business leaders. So if you want to make a difference in your church, your synagogue, you want to help feed the homeless, you want to make a difference, well then go impact the business leaders. They're the ones that create huge solutions for big problems in the local marketplace. They're the ones that do over 80% of all the employment locally. So for me, there's no bigger privilege than to go out and to help small businesses and local businesses make a difference by literally getting a bigger megaphone and shouting to the world what a wonderful job that they do and how they can make an impact. So here's my family. It's my wife Jan, my daughter Eva. I run is Miles said Real Strategic, and I have a 7-figure local marketing firm with 14 full-time staff, and I've trained over 3,000 local marketers. And so the reason I say that is because for a lot of people, and I'm so excited about the topic of sales today, because this is where everything starts. And the number one reason why local salespeople fail is one. They feel overwhelmed. How many of you right now, with all the trainings you've been on, all the software that you've got, all the programs, all the tools, feel overwhelmed right now? Just put in the chat box right now and say, that's me. I feel overwhelmed. So, okay, yes, Rick, fantastic, Mark. Thank you, Kristen. Thank you, Evan, Brian. Oh my goodness, just a slew, just lots of people feeling that way. Even got a hell yes in there. Sometimes, most of the time, yes, yes, yes. Well, let me explain that, because today this is going to end for everybody. Because we've realized the psychology, because when you feel overwhelmed, you lose focus. When you lose focus, you lose confidence. When you lose confidence, you lose clarity and you get frustrated. And here's what happens. Fear sets in. And when fear sets in subconsciously to a local marketer, this is what your subconscious says to you. I need more. I need more. I can't go out and market yet because I need more. And so what happens is we run out and we start marketing, right? No, that's not what happens. We get paralyzed, completely paralyzed. And so we're action takers, right? We want to go do something, so that I need more translates into, instead of marketing, we want to, number one, learn more stuff. So we come to webinars, right? We do blogs. We research a whole bunch of stuff. We're not marketing. We're learning more stuff. Or, number two, it translates into working on more stuff. Oh, I need to get this opt-in. I need to get my website done. I need to get some business cards. I need to get this new tool, right? Or three, we buy more stuff. And believe it or not, we get this really great feeling when we buy something for our business. We didn't make any money. We didn't go out and market. We go and buy something. We work on stuff. We learn more stuff. And here's what happens. We begin to feel overwhelmed again. Fear sets in, and the vicious cycle keeps on going and going and going. So I hope today, for the next hour of this training, with all the expertise you're going to hear, that today you can put your stake in the ground and say, hey, this is going to stop. I don't ever have to feel overwhelmed again, because I have a clear path and strategy to being successful in my business. And so the cure is very simple. Market and make a sale. That cures all the overwhelmness, because when you do that, here's what happens. And this is the ingredients for people succeeding. Build up an immunity to failure. See, those of us that are successful, we build up an immunity, meaning we failed a little bit. A lot like you get a little bit of sickness and you get the flu. What does the doctor do? He gives you a little bit of the flu virus because you become immune to it. So here's the really cool part. All of us have failed. I've failed, Laura's failed, Miles has failed, Linda's failed. We've all been there. So you're not alone in this. We're in this together, and we're to help you. But you can build up that immunity to failure by building a consistency process. And so if you want to build up consistency and be successful, here it is. Ingredient number one, motivation and training. That helps you go. So the secret of being consistent is you need motivation and training. But you also need discipline action to help you grow. So if you want to be consistent, you need something that helps you go and something that helps you grow. And the cool part is, since you're here right now, you're already 50% there. Showing up is half the battle. And so you've got the motivation today, you're going to have the training today. Now the next part after you get out this training is for you to take discipline action. And we're going to give you the steps to actually do that. Because when you do that, you get motivated, you feel excited, right? You don't feel fear, you get excited. You don't say, I need more. You know what you say subconsciously? Businesses need me. And as Laura and myself and Miles, we know that businesses need us, so we get excited. And so we don't go buy more stuff or learn more stuff or do more stuff. No more stuff. You guys have enough stuff. It's time to take massive action. Focus on marketing. So that's what we're going to do today. So I'm excited that I'm here. I'm excited that you're here right now. And so hopefully this gives some clarity. Is anybody can identify with this? Does this kind of relieve a little bit of stress a little bit? Put it in the chat box if that's you. Go, wow, that's me. And now if you just focus on marketing, we can cure up all that overwhelmness, and we're going to give you the practical and tactical steps to do that. So thank you, Miles, for putting this on today.
David, that's a great little introduction. So thank you very much for that. I'm just going to get control back from you. David, can you pass control back over to me?
I can do that, sure.
Wonderful. That's great. So, as I said, David is feeling it. He's feeling the buzz, and he is a fantastic motivator, and it's great to have him here today. So I look forward to kind of running through your sort of slides and your tips very soon, David. Just before we kind of start on that, I wanted to. Could everyone see my screen? Can everyone see my screen now? Hang on a second. I was waiting for my screen to become visible to everyone. Yeah, again, it's being extremely odd because it's saying that my screen should be visible.
You know, it sounds so wonderful you saying it with that British accent that it's odd. I'm a New Yorker. What I would say probably would be edited out of the replay.
Yes, well, I'm managing to make a technical cock-up sound good, which is always nice to know. It's showing me that my screen is visible, but doesn't really showing that for anyone else. What I'm going to do at this point, just for sort of while I try and sort this out, kind of behind the scenes, is I'm just going to jump through my section, and we'll just jump straight through to the kind of prospecting section. And I'm going to hand back over to David. So,
how are we doing with that?
I can see your screen. I think maybe you can all see your screen now.
Okay, excellent. Okay. So here's what the big aha moment for me when it comes to prospecting, that everything changed. When I discovered something, and this was a statistical like aha moment. And let me put in the chat box real quick if this gives you an aha moment as well. Because when I discovered only 2% of sales are made on the second point of contact. And then I discovered only 5% of sales are made on the third point of contact. 10% of sales are made on the fourth point of contact. And 80% of sales are made on the 5th to 12th point of contact. So that was huge for me because I was calling up people going, hey, are you interested? No? Okay, click. Are you interested? No? Click. And I was getting all these no's. I didn't realize that it was all in my follow-up because this is what changed my thinking. 48% of salespeople never follow up with the prospect, which is awesome because literally you can have the same program, same product, same strategy, call on the same client, and if you just follow up more than once, you will beat out 48% of your competition. Only 25% of salespeople make a second point of contact and stop. 12% of salespeople make 3 points of contact and stop. And literally 88% of salespeople don't follow up more than 3 times. So here's the really cool secret. I developed a system inside my business that I have a multi-touch follow-up system for my prospects. And I literally crushed it. So if you're getting a lot of no's, that's because you got to have more than 1 or 2 modalities to break through that process. So here's the really amazing part. What I was doing wasn't wrong. I was doing everything right. And I want to let you guys know that on the call right now, your marketing is probably brilliant. You're probably doing a great job. It's the psychology of what you're doing in your marketing that might need some tweaking. And here's what I mean by that. So I developed a tip and go strategy. And the tip and go is an acronym, so in my head I'm always remembering the process psychologically. And so the T in the tip stands for target your market. See, the problem with what I was doing when I first started is I was going after doctors, attorneys, dentists, florists, roofers, and I wasn't targeting one market. So I was talking to a dentist and I was calling his customers clients, right? That would be like walking into an attorney and calling his customers patients. And then I go into a plastic surgeon and call them customers when they're called cases. See, when you target your market, you get comfortable understanding the language, the process, the ROI, the type of strategies, because in a restaurant, social media works really, really well. But for a plumber, not so good. So try selling social media to a plumber, not going to do a very good job, going to be a much difficult sale. So it's important that everybody stops going, shooting, throwing up against the wall, see what sticks, and become an expert in a specific target market. Now, once I did that, what I realized is I was identifying lots of problems. I was identifying they need social media, they need mobile, they need reputation, they need SEO. And so what happened is that I would confuse the buyer. And a confused mind never buys. Let me say that again. A confused mind never buys. So here is the secret. Identify one problem. Bring that one solution, sell it, get your foot in the door, do a great job, and then that client is yours. You can sell whatever you want afterwards. Because here's what's absolutely true. The more problems you identify, the longer it will take for that person, the more solutions you'll try to sell, the longer it takes to sell them, and the longer it takes to sell them, your opportunity of closing on the sale just plummets like going off a cliff. So let me say that one more time. Identify one problem and only one problem. And let me put the chat box for in just for sake of clarity. I want everybody to tell me how many products they sell. If you do video, that's a product. You do SEO, that's a product. You do social media, that's a product. You do Facebook, that's a product. You do reputation. How many? 9, 6, Mike says. Michael says too many. CT says 10. Joseph says 8. Kristen says 3 to 5, 6, 5, 6, 15, 5 to 7, 5 to 6, 7, 20. Oh my goodness, Tim. Neil, you're struggling there. 27, 3. So what was the average? Everyone put in the chat box, what was the average there? The average was 6, right? And we feel obligated to try to get a full solution, a full package to cover everything. And when you do that, your chances skyrocket for failure. So identify one problem. Go after that one problem, solve it, prove that you can do great business and provide a great solution, and they will buy everything else from you. Any aha moments right there? Well, the third in the tip and go strategy is personalized communication. See, it's not about you or me, it's about them. So here's the typical process. Hey, my name's so-and-so, I sell such and such, I can help you do this, let me talk to a decision maker. Well, that's all about you. Instead of saying, I want to let you know I was online and I was looking for a really good plumber. And I realized you had some bad reviews. And matter of fact, one of the reviews said that, that you ripped off the customer. And so I was interested in talking to the owner to find out more about your business, to see if someone actually uses your plumbing service, if they're going to have that same experience. Now, can you see the difference in my language? Because if you change your language, you change your business. Let me say it one more time. If you change your language, you change your business. So this is a psychological format. I first target one market, I identify one problem, and I make sure I'm telling their story by personalizing the communication. And the go is the action. And by the way, if you want more training on this, I'll put together a whole training, but if you want to go to leekuna.com/tip-go, because obviously I can't get this in 5 minutes, but I'll try to. The G is give value. When values are clear, decisions are easy. And the number one reason why that prospect doesn't call you back, you don't close the sale, they don't call you, they don't follow up with an appointment, is we haven't given enough value. So we got to figure out a process to give value, and the O is offer a decision. Don't say, what do you think? What do you like? Say, would you like this or would you like this? Offer a decision for them to make. So every time I follow the tip and go strategy, I've crushed it. Every time I struggle, that means one of these has gone alignment, and they all go in order of importance. For target your market, identify one problem, personalize your communication, give value, and then offer a decision. So that's really when it comes to prospecting, my secret insight of how I just literally crush it when it comes to my business.
Awesome. You ready for me?
Go for it, Laura. Go for it.
Awesome. Okay, so just let me know, can you see my screen okay, everyone? Just a simple yes or no.
Yes.
Okay.
I think we can. It's all good.
Good. All right, well, I'm Laura Betterly, and I have actually been running a boutique marketing firm since 2002, which kind of makes me a dinosaur in internet years. But a really interesting thing happened is 4 years ago I had gotten very ill, and I had to pretty much fire my staff and start from scratch again. And I discovered local from the viewpoint of, like, we were kind of broke. We went from being worth a lot of money to not being worth so much. And one of the things I wanted to be able to do was, go out for a meal or get my hair done. And I realized that there was this emerging market of local businesses, which, as David pointed out, really fuel the economy and is very, very, very close to our hearts as far as making the world and building things so that we're not dealing with huge corporations. And I ended up bartering with my hairdresser and my favorite restaurant and my chiropractor, and I started really getting great results for them in local, and realized that this was a really big part of the future. From there, I don't know, I've done quite a few courses on how to market and how to do different things on local, but I've got a huge amount of experience in the area. So let's get into prospecting. Now, first thing you need to realize is that prospects are everywhere. Every business that you walk into needs what we do. Any business who has a bad review needs what we do. And I think that from a psychological standpoint, where people really get into the hugest issue is that they think that they have to have this particular prospect or they have to close this guy, and that there isn't enough businesses out there. The truth of the matter is, let's say you're charging $500 a month and and you need $5,000 a month to live, right? What are you talking about? You're talking about needing 10 clients to make everything you need to live on. 10 out of how many billions of businesses out there? It's not a lot. So here's the thing. When you're going to go prospecting, these are places you can go to find prospects. First of all, like I said, your neighborhood. You already probably know some people who need you right now but are a little bit timid to ask or to talk to them about it. Now, in the next section, when we get into closing, I'm going to get into how I communicate to people, because I have my own conversational way of closing people. But the thing is it's a matter of finding who is your target. And David's right. Some people are better off really sticking to one niche and whatnot. And it depends on the size of your staff and what you're doing, of where you start from. But your first prospects from your neighborhood. Another place to look is the Yellow Pages, because the Yellow Pages gives you two distinct pieces of information that are actually hugely important. One is the Yellow Pages do not really help businesses anymore like they used to, because everybody's on Google. So you know that A, the business that is on Yellow Pages has a marketing budget, and two, is not getting the bang for the buck that they should have. So you're already talking to somebody who's hugely qualified just based on those two things. The other thing is meetups, meetup.com. I got to tell you, being in front of people and talking to them and asking them about their businesses and whatnot, and seeing what they're doing, it's a huge way to start developing relationships, and those relationships turn into being clients. And David also pointed out it's not always the first touch point. But the thing is that if you like people and you really enjoy being able to find out about them, that's going to put you in the best headset to really do this. You can't be like hugely salesy and this, that, and the other. You really got to care about the people that you're working with, and you also want to be able to make sure that this is somebody you want to decide to work with yourself. I mean, truth be told, not everybody deserves us. So, get involved in meetups, get involved in chambers of commerce. I found a real interesting thing here in the local Chamber of Commerce is that I did a talk, and I showed everybody how to claim their Google Plus local page and how to do a lot of different things. And the truth of the matter was, They were really happy to know that this was something that would help them, but they were surely not interested in doing it themselves. So I showed them how to do it, and then almost everybody who was interested in it for themselves, the question they asked me was, can you do this for me? Well, that's a wonderful question to get. Can you do this for me? Because you can go, yes. Oh, sorry, I have my little app that measures my my efficiency. Anyway, the truth of the matter is that you really, at the end of the day, want somebody to say to you, can you do this for me? Because then you answer yes, and basically they're closing you on becoming your client, as opposed to you closing them on being that way. And I always like that flow much better when somebody wants me rather than me going after them. And maybe it's a girl thing, I don't know, but nonetheless, I find that 9 out of 10 times people will ask me, how do I start? And then I know they're closed. So anyway, so you've got that, meetups, Chamber of Commerce. There's also other groups like BNI that are networking on a local level. The other thing is LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a B2B network. You can look up and find your exact perfect prospect there. And especially if you're going more professional, you'll see who has a profile. You'll see what's going on. Facebook is another thing, is you can look in your niches, in your locations, and find businesses that need your help. And how do you know? Well, first of all, I told you about the little yellow pages thing, but if you're looking on Facebook, Yelp, and LinkedIn, you can pretty much look at their profiles and look at what's going on. Do they have negative reviews where they need help? Are they not getting engagement on their Facebook page, and it just looks like somebody, 12-year-old kid put it together and they've not gone up on that? You can look up, a basic keyword search and see where they're at and see, what's going on. I mean, I love running the BrightLocal reports to see where someone's at, so that when I'm going to have a conversation with them, I'm having this conversation from a position of like knowing a lot about them, and then I want to know more. But at the same time, if somebody's already ranking #1 and they've got a great Facebook page and they've got a ton of wonderful Yelp reviews and their website looks pretty awesome and whatnot, that's not a prospect. A prospect is somebody that you can see is on the edge or failing and needs help to be able to gain more business. And the truth of the matter is, if you ask that person, do you need more customers, or would you be able to handle more customers? If their answer is yes, that's your prospect. If their answer is no, then it isn't. And it's funny because you say no. Well, I got to tell you, like for my example, for my agency right now, we got a late waiting list. So the truth of the matter is, somebody says, I have 100 leads for you, I'd say, give them to somebody else. I'm actually too busy right now. Now, that's a really interesting position to be in, but I'm saying is that there are businesses that can't handle any more business. But when you see somebody who needs more business and is obviously, a problem, or better yet, if you see that their competitor is ranking above them, you go, hey, I'd rather you get the business than your competitor. There you go. Another place to look is Craigslist. Craigslist is a real interesting place because usually people who advertise on Craigslist do it all wrong. But here's the thing about somebody who's advertising on Craigslist. They have an awareness that there's an internet, and they have an awareness that they need to market. They obviously don't have it quite right, because a lot of times you'll take a look and you'll see, ooh, that needs some help. Their graphics are wrong. There's no hyperlinks. There's a lot of things that'll be wrong. But you're talking about somebody who's trying, and I got to tell you, helping somebody who's trying is pretty easy because they get it. Okay, and then my biggest source of leads these days is referrals. If you have somebody who's already happy, they're going to tell their friends. Okay, and then the other point is upsells. If you already have any businesses that you're working with and you're doing a good job for them, it's really easy to have a conversation and say, hey, we noticed, that you need this done on your website, or you're not doing any Facebook advertising, or you need this, blah, 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 whatever your product line is. And so it's much easier to sell somebody you already have a relationship with. But you put all that together and get yourself in the mindset that prospects are everywhere, And you don't have to close every sale, and you actually want to find people who are deserving of you as opposed to, you know, out of desperation because I need that last $500 because my rent is due. So if you can do that, you're going to really, really win. Does that make sense, guys?
Laura, that's great. That's perfect there. That's really good. So thank you for kind of taking us through that. That was excellent. We're going to jump to the Q&A now. Just while I do that, I'm just going to just try and change presenter to the other laptop. Talking through one laptop, presenting off another. Let's see if this works for us. It does. That's fantastic.
Houston, we have liftoff.
We have. This is becoming a very technical operation at this sense. So, guys, please send through some questions. I've written down a few that have come through. So, I'm going to I'm going to read these out loud and probably assign them off to either David or Laura to answer. David, someone else asked about giving value. You talked about in your tip go about giving value. I think the G was for giving value. Could you give us a practical example of how you give value? What exactly that means?
David. Can you hear me? I'm sorry, I mute there for a second. Giving value, so we have to reference, okay, how many of you in the chat have sent out an email and not got any response? How many have done that? Say, hey, I sent out this email, this postcard, and not got any response. So, yeah, a lot of people have, of course. So now, imagine yourself calling up a CEO and saying, look, I've got a Ferrari sitting out front for you for the day. All you have to do is walk outside and meet me, and I'll hand you the keys. So how many people would get this CEO to get on the phone and he'd walk outside to meet you to get the keys if he could drive around the Ferrari for the day? So somewhere between your email that has no value, your postcard that has no value, and the Ferrari is the answer. So to give you a more practical example of that, I've been doing Hangouts. I've started producing television for PBS with Morley Safer and John Stossel from ABC's 2020 back in the early 2000s and late 90s. And I've been doing Hangouts. One of my expertise is video marketing. So one of the things I'll do is I'll call up a company and I'll say, hi, my name is David and I'm with Real Strategic TV and I'm looking to do a segment on how to find a really good dentist in the Palm Beach County area. And so I've got a list of 10 dentists here. And so I'm looking for someone that can really talk about how difficult it is to find a good dentist online. So when is the dentist available? I could talk to him about being a part of this interview. Now, I get to CEOs all the time. I have no objections, and I get right past the gatekeeper. So what I'm doing is I'm offering value because I'm not selling them. I'm giving an interview to them through a Google Hangout. And so that Google Hangout could be priced anywhere from $500 to $1,500, depending on the value and what I do with it. Create a press release out of it. So that Google Hangout literally takes me 5 to 10 minutes to do. So I lead with value, and when I lead with value, I'm creating goodwill, and I get past the decision maker, right to this, the gatekeeper, right to the decision maker, and they want to have a conversation with me because I lead with value first. So the whole reason people don't do what we ask them to do is it's our fault. We haven't given enough value. And this is why people don't show up to your meetings. This is why people don't sign the contract, is they figured out a different decision to make that they felt was more valuable. And sometimes it's more valuable not to make a decision because we haven't given clarity to the value that they're giving. So they're confused, and a confused mind just doesn't buy.
David, that's a great answer. Thank you very much. Okay, I've got a question for Laura now. Laura, you went through, I guess, a list of places that you would look to for kind of lead generation. Where do you find your most lucrative leads? Is there a specific area that you know? Is it LinkedIn or is it kind of Craigslist? And also, how do you know when, is there a way for you to tell whether a lead is going to be a good one for someone who's going to want your services to convert, or it's going to be a cold one? Do you have any kind of sort of rules or things that you kind of look out for that?
Well, first of all, I like to go after businesses that have marketing budgets, right? So, and I always look at like customer value. So, for example, a cosmetic surgeon will charge, for Botox or whatever they're doing. They've got their customers spend a lot of discretionary income, and let's say their average individual who comes in becomes a patient will be $5,000, or the same thing with a cosmetic dentist. They are looking for big cases of people who have really gone ahead and neglected themselves and want to, in one shot, take care of it. So, their customer value is very high. So to get a $5,000 case or a $10,000 case, they're willing to spend, a couple of $100, maybe even $1,000, depending on what, if you do an analysis and you see, what it's costing them now with the media that they're using. So as opposed to like a local restaurant who maybe the average ticket value is, $20, and maybe somebody comes in twice a month. So what's what's that? That's $40 a month times 12. So the annual value of that person is $1,500. They'll still spend a little bit, but they always get stuck on the person only spends $20 the first time they come in. And if they give good service and whatnot like that, and they have a great menu, and then they'll get more people coming. So I try to first go for those kind of industries. That doesn't mean that I won't take anyone else, but I do a lot of Google searches. I look at who's searching. Pardon me? What?
No, carry on.
Yep. And so, that's my first thing, and it's also what do I feel comfortable with. So, as far as that goes. So that's my first criteria. My second criteria is, do I know it's a good lead or not? I'm actually not going to be sure if it's a good lead or not until I talk to the decision maker. And I need to find out and talk to this individual, because one thing you want to make sure is that you don't want to take someone on as a client who is, let's say, is victim-y, okay? Like everything bad happens to them, or every web person that they've ever hired has screwed them, or when you're talking to them on the phone, they turn around and they start screaming at one of their employees, because then you're dealing with somebody who actually is not somebody who's going to be easy to work with. And I don't work with people who are rough. It's just my choice. Anyone who invalidates or tries to make less of what we do, or that, this doesn't work, or that, or there could be a multitude of other things. But I have a conversation with an individual, and what I do, and I'm going to show this on the next panel, but I have an 80-question questionnaire, and it's really a marketing consult with them, and I give it away. And I got to tell you, it really puts you in a position where you find out about a lot of things about the business. And it's got everything on it to, like, do you have an email list, to is your signage actually visible from the street, because you have no idea with a local business, if their sign isn't visible, nobody's going to walk in. So that does two things. One is it gets me to know the person, and it gets them comfortable with having that conversation and that they can tell me things. And number two, it puts them in a position where they realize, oh, wow, there's all these things that I should be doing and that I'm not. And then I get the question is, can you do this for me? It also allows me to consult. What are they, what are they most, what do they consider most important? Because, you might be trying to sell somebody local SEO, and their real attention is on being able to track phone calls or Facebook or whatever. So when you start talking to them, you can enlighten them on what you think they need. But, I'm of the opinion that you sell somebody something that they want, and you give them what they need. Does that make sense?
Brilliant. Yeah, that's brilliant.
Yeah,
Miles, I actually have a slide on that. Could I just show that for 15 seconds so everybody could screenshot it? That I think will help them.
Yeah, sure. Do you want to grab control?
Yeah, I'll just grab it real quick. So if you take a look at my screen, brilliantly said, Laura. So I have a criteria in my tip and go formula with target the market. So what niches are the most profitable? So my number one criteria is that they're ready, willing, and already spending money. I think we missed that, which, Laura, you just hit that, crushed it. Already spending money. So you have to ask the question, if they're not spending at least $1,000 a month or $12,000 to $15,000 a year, don't work with them. They're not ready for you to take them to the next level. If they don't realize $1,000 a month for marketing is nothing. Number two is they have a high revenue per customer acquisition. So exactly like Laura said, meaning, how much does, everyone put in the chat box, how much does a florist make per sale? How much does a florist make per sale? Yeah, 30 bucks, 40 bucks. How much does a roofer make per sale? 5,000, 8,000. So who do you want to work with? You got a lot of leads to cover your $1,000 a month per diem that you're charging versus one lead or one sale for a roofer. So the third criteria is they have a short selling cycle. So this is why I don't like working with realtors or mortgage brokers or even copier sales. They have 90 to 120-day selling cycles. When they get a lead, I want them closing that lead fast. That's going to get a great ROI for them. And my fourth criteria is make sure there's online search demand for their niche. This rule is broken all the time. A doctor says, look, I'm thinking about doing this new practice, and I want to go and be more of a concierge doctor that'll go visit people at their home. So will you rank me for concierge doctor? Sure, I can rank you, but no one's looking for the search term. So when you put these four criteria together, obviously dentists, lawyers, roofers, or any repair niches, you want things that are immediate, fast, people need it. If they have a leaky roof, they don't want it done in 6 months, they want it done today, they need it. If they need their refrigerator repaired, they need it done today. They need their car repaired, they need it done today. So these are my four criteria that really help me get clarity. And when I teach my sales team what type of prospects we're looking for, they need to meet these four criteria.
David, that's great. So I guess the kind of overall message is kind of make it easier on yourself by targeting people who are open to your services, who aren't kind of jaded from bad previous experiences, and who are spending money and understand the value that you can offer. And I think someone said earlier there are literally thousands or millions of local businesses out there. You just have to become good at spotting the ones that meet those criteria and stop wasting time on the ones that are just going to be a much harder sell and become more of a pain for you down the line as a client.
Exactly.
Exactly. Okay, great. So listen, that's great, guys. We're going to wrap up that section there. I'm just going to take control back to myself again, and I was going to try and present the pieces that I wanted to talk through a little bit earlier. Just some results of a survey that we did into the kind of local SEO market. So we did the survey earlier in the year. It was the second iteration of the survey. Hopefully some of you would have seen this kind of published on BrightLocal or published on search engine land. We went out and we interviewed about 1,000 SEOs, predominantly in the US, but in Canada. We asked them a number of questions about their business and kind of how they were doing. So I pulled out some of the kind of search-related kind of questions and sort of findings here. So one of the questions you asked, what is your turnover in the last 12 months? And what's interesting is a real spread across the board in terms of the kind of turnover amongst consultants and agencies. But what's interesting is that over 50% of people were earning under $30,000 a year, which is really significant to be earning under $50,000 a year, which is it's quite hard to kind of scrape by given the cost you're putting into that if that's what your revenue is. And whether that's people who are ineffective or inefficient or doing it sort of part-time or newbies into it, there's a significant number of people in the industry earning less than 50,000. But at the same side, there are 42% of people who are earning over 100,000. So there's huge potential to earn a lot. I think if you get it right, and obviously sales is such an integral part of getting it right and targeting the right people, building up that customer base, and really sort of leveraging it. So it's interesting to see the kind of spread across the industry. Some more sort of sales-specific questions. This one is, how many leads do you proactively contact each month? And what you can see is that actually 32% of agencies do no outbound sales, no kind of proactive outbound contact each month. But if you look at that, and if I just highlight that particular figure there, hang on a second, let me tell you what, if I go onto here, it probably makes it a little bit clearer for everyone. So 32% do not engage in outbound sales. But that is actually down from the previous year. From the previous year we did the survey, which is 2011. So it's actually down 14%. So there's a lot of people who are doing less outbound sales now than were in 2011. But at the other end of the spectrum, there's a big jump in the number of people who are contacting more than 50%, more than 50 kind of contacts in a month. So it's interesting to kind of see that at different ends of the market, there's kind of different behaviors going on. And what I think it means is that the sales is getting harder. People are having to work harder to kind of grow their customer base. So there's less people doing no sales, and there's more people doing sales or doing kind of lead gen of 50 visitors or more in a single month. Which I think is kind of quite interesting. So is that because, why is that happening? What are the kind of macro effects, macro influences happening in the industry? Are people kind of getting wise to kind of SEO sales and making it harder for people to kind of close deals? Are there a lot more SEOs, a lot more consultants and marketeers coming into the marketplace, which there definitely is, because we know that's that people are flooding into this market to kind of look for kind of new revenue streams and new opportunities. So with this influx and this increase in the number of consultants and agencies, people are having to work harder to sell their services to win customers. We'll just jump back up to a slide here. This is, sorry about the kind of slightly kind of ugliness and the graininess of this. I decided to drop this in a few minutes ago. This is another question. If you ask us, which channels are most effective at generating leads? And absolutely, word of mouth is, over 90%. 91% of people said word of mouth is the most effective channel for generating leads for them. And Laura kind of touched on that as well, about leveraging your existing reputation with existing customers to help you win new customers. If you then look at the second one down, it's actually SEO with about 45%. And what's SEO about? It's all about reputation. Not necessarily reputation in the eyes of people, but reputation in the eyes of Google, and how Google judges your reputation and your credibility for the kind of search terms that you want to rank for. So reputation has a real-world influence in word of mouth, but also a virtual digital influence in terms of your rankings within search engines. And if you look at the next two down, you've got local business groups at third, and you've also got meetups and workshops. And what are meetups and workshops and local business groups? They're physical meetings. These are not emails. These are not mail-outs. These are not cold calls. These are physical meetings where you're actually going to meet somebody. You're going to press the flesh. You're going to talk to them. You're going to look them in the eye. You're going to find out what they're about. And I think even though we are selling virtual digital services, so much of the kind of sales needs to happen face-to-face, because that's where you really start to impress people. That's where they really start to understand you're not like the last guy who did a terrible job on their SEO. That they can understand you, you can get to understand them. And I think people who rely too much on the sort of virtual opportunities, either kind of cold calling or email bursts or kind of other sort of digital sort of marketing, really miss out, because they're not out there, they're not physically meeting people, they're not allowing their potential customers to look them in the eye. That really shows how important both the reputation and relationships are to selling. So I hope that's clear. I'm just going to jump through to the next slide. This looks at conversions. This looks at the number of kind of contacts made and the number of sales made. And what we can see is that conversion rate from 2011 to 2013 has dropped significantly. If you look at the right-hand side of that chart there, you've got 80%, 90%, 100%. The orange bars are much taller and higher than the green bars. Then if you look at the other end of the spectrum with under 10%, 10% conversion, 20% conversion, the green bars are higher. So conversion has actually dropped off dramatically since 2011, 2013. So we saw earlier that people are having to make more sales, have to try harder to win business. They're also kind of converting less. And that's a kind of interesting shift that everyone needs to be aware of, and how important sales is. And it's not just quantity of sales, but it's targeted sales. It's about leveraging your reputation and using your relationships to kind of build your customer base. So 40% of leads are converted to new customers, which again that's a very healthy statistic. And that's again should encourage most people of any industry out there. If anyone said I convert 42% of my my leads into new customers, I think people would be very happy with that. And that's just highlighting the other slide again. Okay, great. So that was what I wanted to run through earlier. So we've obviously kind of been through the prospecting bit. I'm just going to jump on down now. And what I want to do now is to actually do our second poll. So I'm just going to fire up the second poll. Just give me a second. We had 76% of people will vote in the first poll. Here comes the second one, which is how do you rate your sales ability? We're going to run this for about 60 seconds, and if everyone can complete it, that would be great. So fingers on buzzers, everyone. Okay, we're up to 10%, which is great. And again, obviously, we're going to publish the results this afterwards, so you can see how you compare to everyone else who's on the call. Great, we're up to 40%. We're motoring through this, which is fantastic. 48%, 50%. Wonderful. We're going gangbusters here. This is excellent, guys. I think we're going to top out our 76% from the previous question. Up to 60%. Come on, guys, if you haven't voted, please jump in there. We want to make sure we get as larger sort of sample size as possible so that this data is really meaningful. We're up to 60%. We're going to give it another 20 seconds. Okay, we seem to be kind of plateauing around 65%, so not quite up to our 75% from the first question. Okay, let's close it out there. Okay, guys. Again, we will publish the findings of that shortly after. We're going to go into the next bit, which is looking at pitching. Can everyone see that now? We're going to just hand it back over to David. David, over to you. And we're ready for our section on pitching.
Awesome. Let me show my screen here. Everybody see my screen now? We good?
Showing. Yep, showing now.
Okay.
All good.
So when it comes to presenting or pitching, if you will, I've got a strategy that literally has sold millions of dollars for me, and it's a psychology. So I think everything that you hear from me, I think a lot of people sometimes want to hear, what do I do on Friday at 2:32 p.m. to make money? What do I need to do at 5 o'clock on Tuesday to make money? And what I learned early on is that based on your philosophy, that gives you your actions, the way you think. Based on the way you think, that gives you your actions, and then you create your habits. So because of the shortness of what we're doing here, I want to make sure everybody's got the right philosophy in mind, and that'll determine everything else. Because if you're thinking wrong, your action's going to be wrong. So I've developed the secret, what I call ops presentation strategy. And this criteria psychologically keeps me on track. It keeps it systemized, and more importantly, it gets right to the close where people are really excited about doing business with me. So the ops stands for opportunity. So I typically spend my first 5 to 10, even 15 minutes, depending on what I'm selling, on the opportunity. I want to show them the huge opportunity there is to build a 5-star reputation and position themselves as the market leader in the industry, so that when they've got all these referrals, or we've got this television ad, or radio ad, or blogging, or SEO going, when people come to their website or they go see them online, they are the industry leader. So I talk about the opportunity. Once they actually get the opportunity and see the huge opportunity that's there, I talk about the process. And so I lay out a very detailed process. And typically, and Laura said this really brilliantly earlier, she says, look, I explain how to claim their Google Plus listing. But when I go over all the details of it, they go, hey, can you actually do it for me? So when you lay out the process, I actually learned this from Dan Kennedy, because Dan Kennedy was doing this amazing training, and he was giving out this entire step-by-step strategy. I was taking notes fervently. I went over after him and said, wow, what a great training you did. There's so much detail in there. He goes, so you buy the product? I'm like, yeah, it's definitely going to help me. He goes, that's the point. Like, I'm like, what do you mean that's the point? He's like, I gave you everything so that you would see how difficult it would be to do yourself, so that you would buy the product. I'm like, oh my goodness, that was such a huge aha moment for me. So I make sure I lay down the process. And then once I explain the process, I give them the proof, the absolute undeniable proof that it works. So if you do this, you will get this. If you do A, B, and C, you're going to build a 5-star reputation. You're going to position yourself as the market leader, and no other HVAC or dentist is going to be able to touch you, because they're going to call you first before everybody else. And then once I've laid out that psychology, then it's time to sell. And typically what the opportunity in the process is the problem. So when you say, here's the opportunity, here's the process, that creates a huge problem, because they're not going to be able to do it without using you. So then you perform the sale or explain to them how you can solve that, and you can do it all for them at a huge ROI, or return on investment, meaning they're going to pay you $1,000, and they're going to end up getting 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 customers potentially because of it. So when you lay out this ops strategy, it works every single time. And again, every single time I haven't done this ops strategy, I've gone way off base. My sales haven't done so good, and I've left with this like, wow, all this work with not a lot of return on investment. So let me give you some quick presentation tips when you're presenting. So what's the goal of the meeting? Everybody put in the chat box, what do you think the goal of a meeting is? What is the goal of a meeting? To sell? No. To explain? No. To educate? No. To make a sale? No. It's absolutely evident. It's to get to the next meeting. So it's to get to the next meeting. So we always want to continue the process. So whenever you're presenting, you got to have a very defined end result, what the next step is. Don't you dare walk out of a meeting not having the next meeting set up. So what's the goal of a presentation? The goal of a presentation appointment is to what? To get to a proposal. So whenever you're presenting, you want to get to a proposal. And I call it a strategic proposal, where my exact language is, so let's set up a time Thursday where I can come back and I'll put together a personalized, detailed proposal strategy for you so you can see how you can crush it by building a 5-star reputation. So I always end the presentation with getting to a proposal. Never send or give your presentation away. Stay in control. I don't know how many times people will print out their slides or give the information. Never, ever do that. That gives them control. Maximum 30 minutes of undivided attention decision maker. Don't you dare do a presentation without setting an appointment that you have 30 minutes of their undivided attention. That is a verbal contract and agreement. I'm going to come in at 3. We're going to have a go-to webinar. We're going to do a Google Hangout for 30 minutes on Tuesday. So make sure you've got that commitment. Have an exact point-by-point process to get to the proposal. So when you're presenting, just don't send a lot of information. You got to build it. So use the OPS formula. Explain the opportunity. Put some points in all the opportunity that's there for ranking, for social media, for mobile. Explain the process and all the details you need to do to actually do it. Give proof. Say, look, when we do this, this is what's going to happen. These are the results you're going to get. And then you can sell, and that sell gets you to the proposal. Always ask 3 to 5 preliminary yes questions. So this is something you always have to have pre-scripted. So that means, so can you see how building a 5-star reputation can get you more customers? Can you see how these bad reviews will actually stop people from picking up the phone and calling? Can you imagine yourself building a 5-star reputation and then now ranking with SEO? So I'm getting yes, yes, and yes. So, don't ask open-ended questions. They all need to end with a yes. That will also give you the ability to get comfortable by asking the questions. So these questions aren't just for you, for them. They're for you to get comfortable by asking the most important question, which is, would you like to, on Thursday at 3 o'clock to sit down for a proposal strategy session? Closing rates are the same in person versus online. So I think some of you think because you're in a small town or because you're in an area where there's not maybe a lot of businesses, that's where you got to market. No, you can use GoToWebinar, use a Google Hangout. We do all of our, I never meet face-to-face with a customer, ever. Because you know when you get in your car, you lose half a day. Am I right about that? When you get in your car, you lose half a day. So when I'm meeting with the customer, I'm always doing it online, and I use my camera. So I've got a nice background. I use my camera. They might not have a camera, so I don't care about seeing them, but that's just as good, and I close just as much with doing everything on a GoToWebinar with the camera on me than I would getting in my car and losing a half a day. Screen, so let me just bring back that real quick. Based on what facts? Based on your experience or the person that you're following and that's mentoring your experience. So now that you understand the presentation strategy, which is my secret ops presentation strategy, and now you've got these tips on how to present, let's talk about real quick the actual proposal. Everybody like to see a proposal real quick? See, a lot of proposals, I do my proposals completely different. And my proposals are all problem solution based. So let me show you a real proposal. So this is a real proposal, which is my reputation marketing proposal, and everything is in a problem solution format. Because what you have to do is you have to reset their expectations, and most people just put a proposal, we're going to do A, B, C, D, and this is how much it's going to cost. They don't remember the ops strategy, which is we found the problem, here's how we're going to solve it. So let me just kind of read this out loud so you can kind of see the rhythm of my proposals. Issue: companies not listed on the correct directory sites. Thousands of customers every single day search on local business directories like Google, Yelp, Local, and dozens of other sites to find the most reputable company to do business with. After extensive research, we found that your company could not be found or is not properly set up on some vital directories. Solution: research, set up, and claim local directories. Number one, we'll do the proper industry research. Number two, we'll properly set up and claim your business listings. So can everybody see that's a little bit different than the way you're proposing? We're talking about the problem, and more importantly, when I have a salesperson, they can't screw it up. All you have to do is read. So let me do one more so you kind of see. Not enough reviews to be trusted. Consumers will read an average of 10 reviews before making a decision, and research shows that customers do not trust a company with less than 10 5-star reviews. Therefore, your company needs a strategy to quickly get more online reviews to help you with their local directories. Solution: create a customer review strategy. 1. Create professionally designed postcards. 2. Create professionally designed business cards. 3. Create professionally written email campaign to collect customer reviews. So now imagine going through 10 of these in a problem solution format where I read it out loud. It's almost like an entire presentation where I get down to the end, and when I get down to the end, they're ready. They're ready to see my numbers. So just for setting up reputation, I charge $2,000 and $14.95 per month. So they're ready. They're ready to go. So I think this is a complete deviation for the way most people present. And I've had hundreds and hundreds of local marketers use my exact presentation and proposal strategy, and they go through it without a hitch even their first time. So hopefully that helps give you guys how do you actually close a deal. Well, you've got to have a good proposal and what I call propose and close strategy.
Okay, David, that's great. It's Miles here. I'm not sure what happened there, everyone. Apologies. We seem to lose audio on everyone, and you can imagine the panic that ensued this end when that happened. But we're back, and I think we've got Laura back with us as well. So, David, that was great. Thank you for doing that. I'm just going to hand over to Laura now. Laura, are you there with us?
Yep, and I'm back. I mean, and just so you guys know, I'm in Florida, and I think David will probably have the same thing. Is that the power infrastructure here is not as good as some other parts of the world. So, you know, we lose internet, we lose our electric fairly often, believe it or not. There you go. Let me know when you can see. If you can see my.
We can see you now.
Awesome. Okay, so look, on the next section I have here is pitching. How to present. All that stuff that David said is absolutely and completely true. For me, I like my secret sauce, okay, is once I have a meeting with someone, and I don't, and I agree with David, I don't leave if I don't have to. I mean, unless it's somebody with a huge budget, you know, we do an online meeting, we do phone calls and whatnot, but I'm not going to leave the house unless I'm doing a meet and greet and some of those events that we discussed. So first thing is to have your reports and be prepared, because you need to know the information about that business and what exists. So the BrightLocal reports I use all the time for that. And then I also look at their competitors so that, you know, when we're talking, you know, we can find out what their competitors are doing versus them. And then I use my questionnaire that I was talking to you about, which is 80+ questions that has to do with everything that has to do with their business. And I got to tell you, it serves many purposes. You know, you A, get to know who you're dealing with. B, you get to know, how they're handling things, so you can have your own decision point if you want them as a customer. You can explain things to them because, if you say to them, well, do you use autoresponders? And they go, what's an autoresponder? Well, guess what? You've now taught them something. And this particular way of doing things does build authority, and it puts you in a position where they can look at you and say, this is an expert, and it adds value, which David mentioned and is always important. You have to make sure that, look, nobody wants to, if somebody calls you up and say, hey, look, I'm going to spend a half hour with you, and I'm going to sell you on something that you're not particularly interested in, and I'm going to interrupt your really, really busy day. I mean, because you got to remember, you know, David asked you in the beginning, he's like, are you overwhelmed? And a lot of you guys said yes. Well, guess what? The prospects that you're dealing with are also overwhelmed. So you have to give them a good enough reason to actually speak to you because you understand what's going on with their overwhelm. And, you know, I always say to my clients and my potential clients, look, you know the business of your business really well. There's no one who can cut hair better. There's no one who can, you know, fix dental crowns better than you. But, you know, this part of your business, which is really integral to it growing, which is marketing, it's its own study. So you do what you do really well, and let me do what I do really well, and then we'll all win. So the truth of the matter is that this questionnaire builds authority, builds friendships. It asks them a lot of questions. You don't go, look at me, 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 look at me. I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. They don't care. It's about them. So you want to know what you can do to serve them and what you can do to add value, because that's how you not only get clients, it's also how you keep them. And so it's really, really important that you care. And if you can't like them or you can't care about them or their business, then don't go any further, because it will be horrible for you and it'll be horrible for them. So only work with people you like. Only work with businesses that you think you can help. Only work with businesses that you feel are ethical, okay? You know, every business will have somebody or a hater that will write a bad review. But if you take a business that has a ton of legitimate bad reviews because they treat their customers horribly, that's a pretty lousy client to have, I got to tell you, because you can never, ever repair a reputation that with the individual who's not willing to actually look at, maybe I need to change some things. You know, I mean, look, we all have bad days. We all get like weird people walking into our places and might say something odd. But if you're consistently having lousy service, not refunding, you know, people, rats on the floor, so to speak, you know, there's nothing you can do that's going to help somebody who innately has that issue. So we're exposing that somebody has a reputation issue and they're a really good guy and they really need help because they've been attacked or a competitor went after them. That's one thing. But, you know, I am all about, especially since I got sick, I'm all about working with people I like and love. And I'm just not willing to work with people I don't like and love. So, and it makes me a happier person. And I think each and every one of us, when you finally realize that there's no such thing as not enough clients and there's no such thing as a scarcity, and you get yourself past that viewpoint, then you can then go ahead and pick and choose and work in the industry that you enjoy and with the people that you enjoy. And then, you know, you get up in the morning every day and you feel good about it and you want to continue doing it. When you feel beat up, it's probably because you've got somebody who you took on as a client that you didn't like, or is, you know, is one of those kind of types that's just not, you know, real social and will, you know, be invalidating, and it just makes you feel lousy and it makes you work harder for them, and then you neglect the good guys, and it just becomes a vicious cycle. Every time I fire a rough client and look, if I make a mistake and I gotta eat a little crow, that's one thing. I'm talking about somebody who's consistently invalidating, so it's consistently got one of those kind of personalities. Every time I fire one of those guys, 4 more guys walk in the door. So I realize I went on a little rant there, and when we get into closing, I'll get into a whole bunch of other things. But here's where you can get my questionnaire. You can go to laurabetterly.com/questions, and all you have to do is fill out your email address, and I will give you, it's an audio how I use it, plus a PDF with all those questions. And there you go. Did I stay within my 5 minutes?
Laura, that was great. That was great. I've got a few questions for you guys now, so just going to just kind of sort of fire those through. Laura, when you have your questionnaire, do you do it do you have it in front of you and you kind of read through it, or do you kind of give it to the customer and get them to kind of fill it in with sort of pen and paper? How do you kind of physically use it?
Oh, no, no. I go over it with them while I'm talking, and I make notes. I think that it's a mistake to give it to a client and have them fill it out. First of all, it's 80 questions. I mean, look, if you're dealing with a guy who needs more business, is already overwhelmed, what is the likelihood that he's actually going to fill it out and give it back to you? Probably none. And I make it very conversational because, you know, there's certain questions that don't apply to certain businesses. So I'll go through it, and, you know, it's very funny. Sometimes I don't even have to get through the whole questionnaire. I might get it, I might get 10 or 12 questions in, and the guy is already saying to me, can you do this for me? And, you know, once I get that guy saying, can you do this for me, and what does it cost, I'm kind of done. I don't need to do any more of that questionnaire.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
So, yeah, sure. So you just, I guess, kind of on the fly, you just kind of gauge your situation, the responses you're getting back, to figure out how deep into that survey you have to go.
Yeah, I mean, you got to also remember, I'm out of the. My original profession was guitar player in punk band in the late 70s and early 80s. So I kind of subscribe to the, sometimes you just got to jam, you know what I mean? Like improvise based on the situation. You know, I mean, you can't be, when you're talking to people, you can't be pat. It's exactly the same. It's like if you have two kids, you know, one kid is not going to be exactly like the other kid, and you can't say the same exact thing or use the same exact technique to help them. And it's the same thing, is that you got to kind of be willing to, you know, jam, you know, to make it work.
And I guess having experience and putting yourself in that place of, you know, kind of pitching and selling kind of multiple times over, it gives you that experience. It gives you the kind of confidence to be, you know, kind of more relaxed about it and be more sort of fly by the situation.
I'll give you the exact answer. It's actually in the next panel, but I'll tell you now, it's practice. It's practice and it's drilling. There is no salesperson in the world who is successful that doesn't drill. Okay, having the conversation, and the other person that they drill with is that their job is to be as rough as possible and ask the hardest questions, and you know, and to really just kind of hit any possible scenario that you could feel uncomfortable with, because once you practice that, then it becomes part of your vocabulary. I mean, look, if you're going to learn local marketing, you know, you practice, you learn, you study. Part of that, if part of that job is having a conversation, well, then you better learn how to have that conversation well so that you're comfortable. And look, some people, you know, are shy. And I got to tell you, when what I tell my students is, look, if you're not good at selling and you hate selling, okay, but you're great at the delivery and you're fine in handling customer service, hire a sales guy and train them. You know, it's like, you know, I think it's a skill that anyone who can have a conversation can actually have, because I don't actually ask for, you know, I don't go, you know, you've got to give me money, or, you know, you get these kind of, you know, salesmen get a bad name because the bad salesman, see, if you're a good salesman, you don't know, nobody knows you're selling them. A bad salesman is somebody who just makes you want to run away because they slimed you because they're trying to sell you. See that, and I think that's the difference between a good salesman and a bad salesman. But that bad salesman who's sliming you and makes you want to run is also, the big difference is he doesn't care. He's just looking at getting your money. He doesn't care about you. He doesn't care about your family. He doesn't care about your business. You got to care. That care factor is really, really important. And part of being able to feel smooth on it is to be able to practice and drill. And I got to tell you, so what? You make a mistake, or you stutter a little bit, or whatever, or the guy doesn't close. Who cares? One down, 920 billion more to go. So you don't have to get stuck in it. You know what I mean? I mean,
Sure.
You think I haven't made mistakes? My God, have I made mistakes? You know, I mean, sometimes I'm like, did I just say that? Oh my God, what did I do? But the thing is that you just got to be careful enough that you let go of that baggage of feeling uncomfortable or whatnot. And practice is the thing that does it. I mean, I used to have stage fright as a musician. That's got to be the stupidest combination, stage fright, musician. Go on stage.
Laura, I'm just going to cut you off there, Laura, because we're running short of time, and I wanted to, I was going to jump into the final section. I've got a question for David, actually. David, a lot of people have asked whether your proposal doc will be made available to kind of people afterwards, and I know obviously you talked about giving value. Are you going to be able to give us value today by making that sort of proposal document available?
That's a really great question. Here's my suggestion on that. Always model good behavior. And those of you that have great value in the marketplace, don't you dare give it away. You better charge for that intellectual property. When you created the systems, when you've been time on these webinars, when you've taken time to learn software, when you've learned the strategies, and you give it to a customer, you lead with great value to get things started. And then when you build trust, you make sure you charge them appropriately. So if you guys would like to buy, I don't offer my proposals publicly. They're only to my customers. But if you email Miles and say, I would like to buy David's Google Plus proposal and contracts and reputation proposal and contracts, I sell them for $29 to my own members. It's 29 bucks. But I just want to let you know that I will not be giving them for free or a download, because I like to model good behavior, but that's only if you email Miles and then he allows that to happen.
Fine. Okay, that's a great answer, Dave, and I appreciate you put a lot of effort and time into kind of creating those, and $29 seems like an absolute steal for the kind of value you're getting. So any emails that I come, it's Miles, M-Y-L-E-S, at brightlocal.com. I look forward to a bombard of emails, and David, I will pass those guys on to you to contact. Okay, so let's move on. That was great, guys. We're just going to do one quick, what's next on here? One quick poll, and then we're going to go to the last section, and we're going to wrap this up. So sorry, I'm going to launch this poll now. It's going to literally run for 30 seconds. So if you guys can just kind of complete that, we'll rattle through this, and then we'll move on to the final section, which is on kind of closing the deal. And guys, I think we probably won't have much time for kind of Q&A after that, because we're running on time now, kind of over time. So I think the technical issues have definitely kind of hampered us today, which has been a little bit frustrating, and we have lost a few people, but we'll make sure that we catch them afterwards with the recording of the event and obviously the slide deck. Okay, so people are voting. Okay, great. That's brilliant. I'm just going to close it there because we're running slow, but that's great. Thank you everyone for voting. In terms of the next section, closing now. So Laura, let's over to you to kind of wrap things up for us, and then we'll probably kind of draw a line on this in about 10 minutes time.
Let me know you can see my screen.
Yep, we can see it now.
Awesome. Okay, so I have two panels here. I'm going to go into closing and handling objections because I know we're running out of time. So look, the follow-up is very simple. 9 out of 10 times I will get a guy wanting my services once I do that questionnaire. But if not, I follow up, with a phone call or two or an email. And as David pointed out earlier, is that most people will not buy on the first contact. So if I don't get a guy buying right off the bat, he's eventually going to need my services. So I continue to add value by not sending out sales emails, but I send out newsletters that add value and that tell things that are going on in the industry. So just because somebody doesn't close right now doesn't mean they're not a prospect. It just means they're not a prospect today. The other thing that I find that's pretty interesting is you need to take the risk away from them, okay? If you're good at what you do, and Perry Belcher, and I don't know if you guys know Perry, but he's a pretty darn smart marketer, and he's my publisher. And I remember sitting in a mastermind with him, and I was telling him about my sales and whatnot, and he goes, well, what if, do you make your people sign, a contract and for a particular period of time? And I said, oh yeah, absolutely. Everybody signs up for at least a year. And he goes, well, let me ask you another question. If they're not happy with you, are you going to give them their money back? And I said, yeah, absolutely. Why wouldn't I? And he says, well, why are you using this long commitment period to be a barrier to entry? So I sign everybody up on a month-to-month basis. I have a 90% retention rate because I'm good at what I do. So I'm not worried about, and I don't have to go and close them again in a year. I close them once. I take their credit card information or their check information, and on the 5th of the month or the 10th of the month or whatever it is, I run their credit card, or I draft a check, and I don't have any more conversations with them other than sending them a paid invoice, and that's that. So take the risk away. You know, people get afraid of these long-term commitments. And, you know, it's just like if you're going to get married, you know, you want to date first. So if you know what you know and you're good at what you do, then there's no reason to lock somebody into a long commitment. That's the first thing. The second thing is be exclusive, okay? So, for example, you know, I only allow myself to have 25 clients because I have an exclusive agency. So somebody might not be able to get me if they don't close right away. And it's not, I didn't make it up. It's actually true, okay? So they have to get on a waiting list. So I let them know that there's a waiting list and that there's an opening, or if there isn't. So, you know, that's one thing. And then you have different things. It's like if you've got somebody who's on the fence, you know, you can say, you know, the price has changed, or there's something that you're going to take away if they don't do it right away. Or conversely, something that you'll give them extra if they start right away. I mean, sometimes when I'm trying to make numbers, okay, it's the end of the quarter, and I always try to be up quarter over quarter, I might say, look, you know, I'm trying to make my stats up quarter over quarter. If you start right now, I'll throw in, I don't know, something, you know, maybe it's video SEO or something that will make it worth their while, okay? So that's how you get the deal done. Now, the other thing you should keep aware of, and I just went past the panel by mistake, so let me just go back to my PowerPoint here. And, sorry, and go back to the current slide. Nope, that's not the current slide. It's being bad, guys. There we go. Okay. So handling objections. So look, David went into this. People who are agreeable and say yes, okay? So you ask them questions that they're going to answer yes, because now they're used to saying yes to you, and that will put them in the mindset to say yes when you finally say, are you ready to start now? Okay, so that's your number one thing. The second thing is, this is what I call the no drill. Get used to, you know, what is the worst thing that happens when somebody says no to you? There's no gunshot, you don't die, nothing horrible happens when you hear the word no, and somebody says no to you. So you really want to get used to people saying, you know, get a kid to scream no in your face over and over again, so you get used to hearing no and you don't have that emotional reaction to it. Because really all you want to do is get a yes, right? And no is not going to kill you, and you're not going to die with a no. And a no doesn't always mean a no, because a no can become a yes. A no becomes a no when you emotionally react to the no, and then you can't deal with it, okay? So you go, okay, I got that you're seeing that, but, you know, let's take a look at this. What if, or what is it particularly that you're having? Is it a problem with the money? Is it a problem with this? And find out why that individual is having a problem or says no, okay? So get used to that and get comfortable with it, and I guarantee you, the more you get comfortable with the word no, you get more yeses because you're not resisting it. So that's that. And I went over earlier, okay, the drilling and the practicing. The practicing is it's a skill. It's like playing an instrument. Practicing is the key to feeling comfortable. So, you know, you need to have confidence in what you do. So don't let anyone invalidate you. And if you drill uncomfortable situations and questions and situations, that's going to put you in a position where you can handle anything. So, I mean, that's just the simplicity of closing. And you know what? You'll close more deals when you're comfortable, you know how to get yeses, and you play around with those different techniques. There you go. Nope, and I lost everybody.
Okay, no, that's great. No, I'm back. Sorry, I was on mute for a second there. Laura, that's great. Thank you for rattling through that. We've kind of run over time now, so appreciate everyone kind of hanging on with us. I'm just going to kind of run through, for those of you who want to hang on, the results of the kind of polls that we did. The first poll we did was, you know, do you enjoy the sales process and sort of selling your services? And interestingly, about 25 people said, yeah, they like it a lot. About 50 said they like it a little bit, but over 50% said they like it sometimes, or they don't like it, or you know, they even hate it. So that's quite a kind of significant number of people who really don't enjoy the sales process. And I think what you've got to do is what we've, you know, been evidence in, you know, in Laura and David's Laura, could you just put your microphone on mute for a second? Someone's just typing there. She's quite loud. I think what you've got to kind of get your head around the sales process, shift your mindset from being a mindset of, I don't like doing this, I feel uncomfortable about it, to get yourself in a position where you can really enjoy it. You know, you've got to train yourself up, you've got to practice, so you move yourself from that camp of, I don't like it or I'm uncomfortable, to the camp of, I really do like it, and I really enjoy it. You've got to kind of make that shift. You've got to get into to kind of really enjoying sales, and then it'll actually become a part of your day that you'll really enjoy. The second poll down was, how do you rate your sales ability? 20% of people said they were very good. 45% said they're quite good. And then 25, I'm not very good. No, a few people said I'm really bad at it, which is great. That's very honest of you, and at least you know where you are. 5 people said I don't know, which is interesting because you've really got to understand where you're at, so you can understand which direction you've got to go and how you're going to improve. But again, it's about kind of getting confident about it, improving your skills, and obviously that'll lead to success. And the final question was, which part of the sales process do you find most challenging? And interestingly, it's spread out quite a lot. Sort of 32% said they find prospecting, generating leads the hardest. Another 32% said they find getting a foot in the door or getting past the gatekeeper is the hardest. Having meetings and having objections, actually, people seem to be quite kind of happy with and kind of comfortable with, but then kind of closing the deal. So it appears to be, the start of the process and then the end of the process. The kind of human bit in the middle where you're meeting people and having objections, most people seem pretty kind of comfortable with. So that's interesting to kind of see that kind of spread of answers that we got there. So guys, thank you very much for listening in and for kind of joining us today. We've got some upcoming webinars in September and October, and you've got the kind of dates and times there in front of you now. So we've got on September 11th, we're talking about citations. September 25th, we're looking at local reputation management. Then on October 9th, we've got Linda talking, maybe with a couple of other speakers, talking about kind of Google Plus Local advanced troubleshooting. So that's the agenda that we've got kind of spread out over the summer and the fall period. We hope you can kind of join us on those. We've got your emails now, so we'll be emailing around to you. I've had about 30 people email me asking for David's slides. So David, I will be passing those on to you sort of very shortly, and that's great. And it's interesting how kind of popular that is proven. Now that my email address is out there for public consumption. So anyway, you guys have hung on. We've shot over time a little bit. Thank you very much for being with us today. A big thank you to our guest speakers for sort of sharing their wisdom, their expertise, and their kind of valuable IP on sales. Also, thank you to kind of Linda and her team over at the Local Search Forum, and particularly a big thank you to everyone out there in local search land for bearing with us and for kind of enjoying today's webinar. Have a good day. Keep at it. And we hope to see you on the next Inside Local webinar.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Miles. You guys have a blessed week. Bye-bye.
Yep.
You as well. All the best, guys. Thank you very much.
Thanks so
Take care.
much. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.